Well, hello everybody, it is day 12 of my July vlogging challenge, and I thought today I would talk to you about the weather. It is a really grim old day today, and I thought, well, that's inspired me. So here we go, this is the topic for the day. Also, one of the reasons why I thought I would take on this topic is because I'm always really amused by a lot of comments that you get in either YouTube videos or other forums saying, I wasn't expecting that, or weather-wise, or, you know, all the weather forecast didn't say it was going to be this windy, or just having a good old moan about, oh, the weather forecast was wrong. And one of the things that the reason why it makes me chuckle is because I just don't think people understand that they're in a mountain, or they're in an exposed moorland, or they're up high somewhere, and you're just thinking, hang on a minute, do you know where you are? It's not like you can just predict the weather. That's the whole beauty of mountain walks and spending time in the outdoors and the mountains. We do just live in an unpredictable weather country, and I thought I would just share a little bit about my experience of using weather forecasts, and perhaps share a few tips that might help you to appreciate them a bit more too. So this is about take 28, and I've quickly realised this is a massive topic, and I could be here hours trying to organise my brain into talking about this and expanding on all of the different points and all of the different areas that weather impacts the outdoors, and the choices you make and the kit you have, whether it's suitable, blah-de-blah-de-blah. And I think I'll be here for hours, and that's not fair on you. My mind is a discombobulated mess. So I think what I will just do today is talk to you about what I look for in a weather forecast, and perhaps even just try and leave it at that if I can. So what I really like resource-wise is I often will use the Mountain Weather Information Service. They have a YouTube channel, and they publish, I think that's the word, regular updates. And one of the things that I really like about it is they give a really good overview. So are we having a steady front of weather, or is it all a bit changeable? And I think for me that really is the crux of whether the weather forecasts that we get are a bit more predictable or not. We just live in a country that is very driven by different factors. We've got different wind directions, we've got topography that's quite different, we've got the Gulf Stream. There's just so many things that come together to make the weather that we have, and in different areas you're going to get different things going on because of the topography and all sorts of other things. And so I do like that service because it gives a bit more of a broader understanding, and they also talk about conditions, not just the weather. So things like snow, things like whether it's been particularly wet for a long time, there's just all sorts of things to consider other than, is it raining right now? Does that really matter? Because I think for me personally, because I've got the skills and because I've got the experience, I don't really care whether it's raining or not. In most circumstances, the only time that I'm going to be worried about the rain is if I've picked up a route that's just a little bit beyond either the kit that I have or the confidence that I have in my ability. So I'm thinking of places like, if you go to Blencathra in the Lake District, there's some lovely ways up, all sorts of ways. I wouldn't necessarily choose to go up, I think it's called Sharp Edge. It's as you'd expect, it's just a sheer drop either side. If it's particularly wet or windy, or if it's been raining for a while, I mean, it's been quite wet and mild, and I imagine you get a bit more moss, or certainly fauna around in those conditions that can be a bit slimy on rocks. I don't really want to be climbing something that exposed where I'm at in my journey on this, exploring what I'm capable of, and growing and that, I don't think that's the route up that I would choose on a wet days. And I'm talking about conditions, not just the weather there, because it's about the slippiness, not just the actual, is it raining? Because I've got I've got a coat. In my view, if it's raining, you put a coat on. If it's not, you take your coat off. I don't have any big dramas about whether it's raining or not. The things that I'm really looking for is there weather or conditions that is going to change the kit or the route that I take? And in most of the cases in the adventures that I've chosen, the answer will be no, because as in I don't really mind what the weather is, because I have the skills and experience to do what I'm wanting to do. So for example, if I'm on Dartmoor and all of a sudden all the fog comes in, well, I normally choose a route that has quite an obvious track, whereas, and that's just because my navigational skills, I feel pretty confident, but not enough that I would want to risk going off piste and just going rogue, because I think I just am not familiar with going through really boggy areas, and it's just not where I'm at, and that's okay. And so because I go on tracks, it means that if it gets claggy, well, it's not the end of the world, because I will know where I am. And also I know that my OS Locate works in all the areas that I've gone to so far, and I carry a power bank, so I know that the risks of the weather coming in and it all going a bit pear-shaped is actually quite small. Whereas if I was in an area that I didn't know, where there wasn't a marked path, where there was sheer drops either side, the weather coming in and it being foggy could have a bit of a bigger impact. So I think context is really important. And so me personally, it's just, I'm more interested in how is this going to impact my day, not in terms of I don't really care if it's sunny and I'm going to get a view at the top. Whereas I think a lot of people, when they're looking at a weather forecast, they just want to know if it's going to be a bit windy or if it's going to be sunny and a nice day. And I get that, especially YouTubers. Who wants to be going up on a miserable day just to film a load of dark clouds that are just very uninteresting? To be honest, I can understand, you want a nice sunrise. And the reality is you just can't guarantee that with the type of weather that we have. And so I don't think weather forecasts are great necessarily at the whole, is it going to rain or not? But I think that sums up a little bit about what I'm looking for in a forecast. And especially, I haven't talked about winter actually. So in winter, one of the things that I'm more looking for is the freeze level, because I don't often go into winter conditions. I don't have a lot of kit for it. I've got an ice axe and some crampons and micro spikes, but actually I don't do it that often, and I would almost feel more confident in full-on winter conditions or full-on summer conditions. When I say summer, I mean as in, wet and windy and the usual things that you'd expect in a mountain. The hardest thing I find is when it's in between, when you're not sure, it's snowy but you can kick steps, but you're like, oh, this still feels a bit dicey. It's that moment of when you know when to put your winter kit on. I think for me, that's where I'm at with the whole conditions thing. And so when I'm looking at a forecast, I'm trying to work out, has this been freeze-thaw conditions where you'd have it freezing overnight with frost and perhaps some snow, but then the sun comes up and then it all melts away. Quite often I find that on Pen y Fan actually, that I've been at the top. And very rarely have I needed a winter kit up there. It's only when you get to the real top that there are some exposed areas, and I might want a walking axe and some mic spikes. But again, I'm wanting to know where that freeze level is, because I want to know whether I'm going to need to take that kit with me. And often when I'm looking at it, I'm not looking exactly what the freeze level is. I'm thinking, 50 meters either way. What's the likelihood that this freeze level is going to be at the altitude that I'm going to be walking in? So that's what I feel like when I'm on winter grounds. It is about what equipment I take. I think for me, I just expect the worst because then I know that I'm prepared for it, and if it's a nice day, great. And I think people just are unprepared. They hope it's going to be a nice day, and when it isn't and it gets claggy, and all of a sudden that brings all sorts of, I don't know, other you just need to have your skills and your experience and the conditions marry up. I think if that's the point that I'm gonna leave you all with, it's that there's a level of skill that you need in the outdoors. Does that marry up with the conditions that you're going to go into and the weather? And for me, that's what I'm looking for when I'm looking for a weather forecast, or if I'm looking at the environment that I'm going into, is that marrying up together, or do I need to adjust? Do I need to go a different route? Do I need to take some different kit with me? If you are just hoping that the weather's going to be nice and you're going to see a view, my biggest top tip is to pick a time when the weather is steady, when all the different models that you'll get, when you see all the different weather forecasts, when they all point to the same kind of it's going to be sunny, you know that there's going to be more chance that you're going to get that nice weather at the top. Never guaranteed, but I think if you really are wanting a nice sunny day to go for a walk in the mountains, or up high, when I say mountains, I mean anything above 600 meters, just because as soon as you get up to that elevation, you are that's when you start to go into the clouds, and that's when you start to see the gnarly weather coming in. So even if it's an exposed plateau, you definitely, if you want a nice day, definitely look for the stability in the weather, rather than necessarily, oh, it looks like tomorrow's going to be a nice day, but some of the weather forecasts say, oh, it might be a bit cloudy, or it might be a bit this. I personally think, yeah, this time of year, if it says it's going to be sunny and a heat wave, you've got more of a chance of the weather being correct, the forecast correctly giving an expectation of what you're going to see, rather than in changeable conditions. I think you're just hedging your bets a little bit. I do trust that's been helpful. I am going to do a much more helpful video when my brain is a bit more organised and I've got a bit more time to think about it, because I think it's an important topic and it has a massive impact on our experiences outside. So I hope that was okay, and I will see you tomorrow.